In this video, I'm going to show you how to make a fabric tray. These are so cute for holding just little stuff. You can use them for makeup or sewing supplies, and you can use two fabrics for these, so they're kind of a fun project. They're super easy to make, so I'm going to show you how to make these. There's a template on my website you can download. There's actually a bunch of sizes to choose from, so I'm going to show you the medium in this video, and then you're going to cut these out on the fold. So cut out a lining and a main on the fold like this. So when you open it up, you'll have a bigger square. These are just squares. And then you'll also need interfacing. If you have lightweight fusible interfacing, just put it on both of the fabrics. If you have a thicker, I have a thicker one, and I'm just going to put it on one side. So it doesn't actually matter which main or lining you put it on. I'm just going to put it on this orange fabric. So there's two sides to interfacing. One is shiny or bumpy, and mine is just kind of shiny. That shows you that it's adhesive. So you don't want to iron the adhesive. So don't put the adhesive down, and then iron this, press it on. You just need to get it hot enough to melt that glue. Okay, and then after I've done that, I'm going to trim off where my interfacing was a little too big. That way it just won't get in the way of my seam allowances. Okay, now I'm going to pin the other fabric, the lining, face down on top of this. And we'll sew it around the whole box, leaving one little opening on one side about 2 inches wide. We're going to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So sew around, pivoting at the corners 1/4 inch, and then make sure you leave about 2 inches at the top. After you've done that, we're going to trim off the corners and trim down the seam allowance just a little bit. So we have a 1/4 inch seam allowance, so just trim it up just a tad so that it's a little bit more than 1/8 of an inch, and then trim the corners pretty well. I like to do one clip straight across and then kind of ease into the side. I never trim the seam allowance where I need to fold the fabric under, because folding at 1/8 of an inch is way too hard. So leave that seam allowance there. Okay, after you've trimmed all those edges, we're going to turn this right side out. And if you've used a thick interfacing, it can be a little tricky, but a point turner like this will help you get those points out. Okay, so now I'm going to give it a really good press, and as I press, I'm just making sure that my seam is as pulled out as possible. Sometimes it gets tricky in between the seam, and you can use a pin to pull it out. And then when I get to my opening, I want to fold under, just kind of following where the fold wants to go because of our stitches. We're going to fold that under and then press it, and we'll sew that together as we top stitch. And then I'm going to pin these together at the top so that they are in the right spot. And then I'm going to top stitch around this with a 1/8 inch 1/8 inch from the edge. Now that you have your top stitching, we're going to shape this into the tray shape. So what we're going to do is take our template and we're going to place it on top of this fabric, but we've taken off 1/4 inch. So I'm just going to account for that seam allowance by moving the template 1/4 inch over all 3 of these edges. And then we're going to make a little dot in the corner of this dotted line here. This dotted line is going to be the bottom of the tray, and you can do 1 and then measure. So this is about 1 1/2 inches square. So about 1 1/2 inches. So we're going to do that on all of the corners. Just make a mark. Okay, and then put the side you want on the outside to be face down. We're going to fold this in half to make a triangle, and you'll find your dots on that line. And then what we're going to do is sew from this dot straight up to start creating that shape. So I like to use a ruler and draw a line. So you want to make it this line perpendicular with the edges up here and all the way down to the dot. And then I'm going to put a pin or 2 in here just to hold it. So what we're going to do is just sew through that line and backstitch pretty well at both of the edges so that it'll stay pretty well. Okay, so I've sewn and backstitched, and now we're going to do that on all of the 4 corners. Since I've already have this folded, I'm going to start over here and draw another line down perpendicular from where my 2 edges are meeting down to the dot. And just do that all 4 times and sew and backstitch. And then when you get to these ones, we'll just fold this corner since we can't fold the whole thing anymore. Once all 4 of your edges are sewn, you'll see how the tray has turned into a tray. And I like to just give the bottom a little press to get a little bit of the corner shape. And then it's ready to fill up. So these are really fun for like sewing supplies you like to have on hand or jewelry, and they make a great gift too.